and I will chat you guys through all the instructions and things. So what we'll do first is just make sure that everyone has got everything they should have in their kits. Now, I'm pretty sure that you do, but you should have...
Everyone knows you, don't they, Christina? I don't know whether Vicky knows you.
Oh, I'm Christina. I'm Rachel's little sister.
Oh! Hello! Does everyone else know who you are? I don't know.
I don't know who she is.
I know Sabrina, bowl that's wrapped up in tissue paper. You should have a sheet with a star and a heart on it. You should have 2 pots of white glaze, 3 pots of what looks like grey, but it's going to be blue, and a paintbrush. Awesome, that is a good start. Now, we also asked if you could get a bowl of water and a pair of scissors. And that's all we're going to need. You don't need any previous experience. You don't need any massive artistic skills. You can just enjoy. It's basically painting glaze on, and we're just going to have some fun. There's a few bits that I'll chat you through, and then I'll kind of come off it and Pip will stop recording, and then you guys can just enjoy being together, but not together. Does that all sound okay? Now, the only thing is, I need my display one. Bear with, I've got a technical hitch this end tonight, but you'll see that you have got a star and a heart to choose from. So this is what we're going to be working with. Now, these are called Terra Bella glazes. So they're a specialist glaze that was launched about 18 months ago for us, but we're quite new to it, and we've been having a good play and finding out how best to use these, and we just love the way they react when they're in the kiln. I don't know if Pip can spotlight the upper camera for me, but you can see the drips that are going around the edge. They have got kind of cracks and sections in them that are slightly different to the base glaze that's underneath. So we're using this blue one here that's called Egyptian blue. So it does actually have a kind of a different finish on it, basically. It's not just a lovely fine glaze. It has texture and it has a patterning coming through. And then the white that goes over the top is a reactive white, but reactive white only actually reacts over certain glazes. Some glaze, it will just sit there and it will be solid white, but over Egyptian blue, you get this beautiful kind of lace effect coming through here. So it breaks up when it fires in the kiln. When you wrap these up and finish them today, they're going to look grey and dull, and the white will be solid. But please believe me that when I fire these in the kiln, this beautiful kind of breakup and cellular pattern will happen once they're fired. So you're going to get these stunning bowls back when we're all done. Now, I will chat you through a couple of different stages, but first we're just going to start painting, and then I can talk you through it as we go. So you're going to want to unwrap your bowl, and we're going to start on the inside of the bowl. So we're going to go for 3 layers. Now, when we paint normal pottery, like this watermelon bowl actually that's in here, we normally say go for your lightest colours first, and 3 coats gives you a strong, solid coverage. Now, when we're painting with Terra Bella glazes, we can actually go on quite thick. We don't need to worry about thickness of glaze. With a standard glaze, we'd say to you do 3 nice thin coats and you'll get this beautiful finish. But with a Terra Bella, the thicker it goes on, the better it is. So we're going to start with our Egyptian blue, which will look grey. They are sellotaped together just so that in transit, they didn't pop open and decide to paint the bowls for you. So just take your sellotape off there. And it's all the same in those pots, but just open one up, and we're going to do what's called fully loading our brushes. So these brushes that you've all been given, I think you've all got the same as mine actually, with the blue ended handle. If not, and you've got a black handle that's got a slightly wider top, that's absolutely fine too. But they are designed to hold an awful lot of glaze in one go. The last thing you want to do is just dip the tip of the brush in the glaze and then try and paint, because you're going to be backwards and forwards, and you're not going to get a lovely finish. So what you're going to do is dip your paintbrush in your water so that it's full of water. Just shake off a little bit, but don't wipe the edge. You want it so that it's really, really full. And then you're going to dip that into your Egyptian blue and sort of squidge it around. Now just be careful, because obviously they're really, really full pots. But what we're doing here is we're aiming for a fully loaded paintbrush. So you're going to start brushing onto your pot when it's full like this, but it's not quite dripping. So it's really tempting to do this and wipe it before you start painting, because when we paint anything else, you never want drips. You don't really use your paintbrush like that. But we're going for fully loaded, and then we're just going to cover the inside of the bowl. As soon as it starts to drag like this and leave these brush lines, I'm just going to reload my brush. Don't worry too much if there's a little bit like this bit here that still shows the white coming through. Don't go over it now, but just go for one coat all over the inside of your bowl, and then we're going to let it dry. Bisque is really porous, so it's going to draw the moisture out of this glaze very, very quickly. So this first layer dries really, really quick. It will lose its shine almost straight away, and then we'll be good to go for the next one. But don't overwork it. So as you can see with mine, the outside edge is still very wet, but this bit in the middle now is completely dry because it's lost its shine. But there are still brush strokes on there. If I hold that up a bit closer, you can see that it's not really covered the bowl, but don't worry about that, because when we go for our second and our third coats, we're going to cover really well. I also wouldn't worry at the moment about this upper edge. So this is going to be an edge that we'll treat independently. I did get a little bit on there. But don't worry about going up and over that, because in a moment we'll flip the bowls, so it damages that ridge anyway. So just don't worry too much with that coat. Now this is going to dry, and as soon as it's lost its shine, we're going to do it again. And then when it's lost its shine for the second time, we're going to do it a third time. And then I know some of you have already cut out your shapes, but then we're going to cut out some shapes whilst we're waiting for it to dry. So if you have done that already, don't worry, you can sit and drink some tea. But we're aiming for 3 coats, and you don't want to be too stingy on your glaze. I'd like to see you starting your second pot before we flip this over. So if you find that you're being really, really kind of fine and delicate with this, and you don't have you've got an awful lot of glaze left, then add another coat. So we will keep a little bit of an eye on you all when we're busy painting, and Pip's there watching and making sure everyone's doing okay. But yeah, you don't want to be too stingy with your glaze. You want to get that on there. The thicker and better this glaze goes on at this point, the more of these reactions you're going to get. So you're going to get this kind of beautiful breakup with the blue. It's really hard to show you on a camera, but close up, this is absolutely stunning just on its own. It's a really, really lovely glaze. It would be perfect for like a dinner set or something like that. If you don't go thick enough, I actually have this one to show you. This was another one I made earlier. This was the first one that we did, and I was a bit scared about how thick the glaze was going on. And this is exactly the same as this, but I didn't put enough coats on. So this is what we're aiming for, and this is what I got the first time round. So just to kind of keep that in mind as we're painting, when I say get this glaze on, I really, really mean get it on. So here, there are definitely 3 coats of glaze on that star, but the rest of this is just too thin. Can you see? Okay. So keep going. So mine's now dry because it's completely lost its shine, and I'm good to go for a second coat. So I'm going to start going with that. Now, you don't need to add water every time. You added enough with that first load. But when you open a new pot, just put a paintbrush full of water in there. And I don't know if you can see, but I literally have it almost dripping, and then I just kind of splat it on. It's going on pretty thick. This is not how you would do any other painting, really. You wouldn't paint a wall like this, or a door, or a beautiful canvas. This is kind of, it's like bring out the inner toddler in you. Slap the glaze on. No, it will in a minute. It's just a bit thick on that bit. If you've got a patch that's not dry yet, just wait for it to go. The reason why we let it dry completely in between coats is that it needs to set up. So the glaze needs to adhere to the bisque. So it needs to sit there and dry, and then you can layer your next one on. If you don't let it dry in between times, all you're doing is moving that glaze around on the bisque, and it's not got that proper kind of hold on there. So we need to make sure it dries completely, and then it means you're truly adding a second or a third layer. Oh, Rachel, what are you eating? You were doing that silently, and I just went on to gallery view as you put in a big fork full of food.
I've got some pasta carbonara.
Oh, nice.
It's very nice. I was quite hungry because Mum hasn't fed me tonight.
Rude.
It's quite shocking, actually, isn't it?
I've been fed for a whole week now. I've had to feed myself.
You've got to fend for yourself now. You are a grown-up.
Yeah, sad time.
About to start my second pot, so that's what you should all be aiming for. If you've got a lot left in your first pot, I'm going to want you to do a 4th coat. So we want to be into our second pots by the time we're finishing the 3rd coat. And then just remember, you don't need to wash your brush out, but just add your brush load of water in there again. Just mix it up a little bit. Oh, I'll try and come in front of the camera, that would be easier. And then off you go again with your painting. And just get full brush loads. This should feel like you're almost painting with satin or silk. It wants to kind of glide on there. If you've got any kind of drag on your brush, it's not loaded enough. You shouldn't feel that kind of resistance as you're painting along. It should just kind of glide on beautifully. So that's my 3rd coat on. And I know some of you are ahead of me. So what I'm going to do is now, while that's drying, I'm just going to cut out my shape. So I think this is the 5th one I've done of these. I really, really like the star. I did do a heart, but I really like the star, so I'm going to go for that one again. Now, a few times, I don't know if any of you are on our Glaze Creations Facebook page, but we've had quite a few of these done recently, and they're quite amazing. And people did a selection of things. They've done maybe like the big star, and they've done 2 little stars, or they've done a star and a moon, or they've done a heart within a heart and things like that. If you want to get creative, now's the time to kind of go for it with getting your paper cut out, because this is the bit that's going to block the reactive white. So whatever you cover now with paper will be blue, and the rest of your bowl is going to be reactive white. I quite like just the big bold star or heart in the middle, but it really, oh, there we go, Pip's showing one that has little stars, sorry, as well as the big one. And they're lovely, actually. I believe that was the one that was made. It's a mum and her 2 children. So that's what she aimed for with that one there. But yes, so whatever you want to do, now's the time to cut them out. If you are doing small little stars or little hearts, all I ask for is that when we stick these and we start painting our reactive white, they easily get lost. So I'm going to get you to kind of scrape over the top. So this big one won't get lost because of the way we're going to paint. But if you're doing little stars or little hearts kind of going around, when we start adding the white over the top, they will disappear. So each time we add a layer, I'm going to get you just to scrape back over the top of that paper so you know exactly where it is. So just be aware of that, because once that 3rd coat of white is on there, you're never going to see it. So, and it has to come off. If we leave paper or plastic or whatever you're wanting to use to mask out in this, it will burn and crisp up, and it leaves a really disgusting, horrible, unfixable mark.
Could you cut out a heart in the middle of it?
Yeah, yeah, so you could. Can I borrow it for a second? So my mum just asked a question about cutting out a heart in the middle of this, and that works beautifully. So if you folded it in half gently, you could then cut your little heart out of the middle, so you can kind of come around like this. Oh, I've just been roped in to do it for her. Hold on, I shall show you. How little did he? So folding it in half. Oh, it takes me back to like primary school doing cutting, like the snowflakes. And then moment of truth, da, 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 little heart in the middle. Is that okay shape wise? Did you want it fatter? No, that's lovely. There you go. Thank you. So yeah, you can do that. And then if you wanted to, and you've cut these out, then you can use your cutouts as well. So have a bit of a play, and get ready with your paper.
Like going
Oh.
sides.
Yeah.
Oh, there.
Why don't you put one in and then just do a couple of little ones like that? Oh, it looks like a face.
Okay, so you should have now a nice dry bowl. And what we're going to do is just wash our paintbrush out in our water, because we need to rehydrate this glaze and use it as a glue. So we're just going to wash this out, and you might want to get your fingers in there just to make sure it's coming out of the bristles nicely. It doesn't have to be spotless. So because we're going to use the same color again in a moment anyway, but we're just going to take some of that out. And then what you need to do is just position your shape or whatever you're doing wherever you want it to go. So you can go off center, straight in the middle, wherever you're wanting it to be, and just get a rough idea of how much space is around it. And then with a wet paintbrush, without overworking the glaze at all, you're just going to rehydrate that center section. So I'm just painting water on there, and then my paper is going straight down in the middle. And then I'm going to spend a bit of time squishing it down into that. Now, paper hates being wet. So when it's wet, it likes to curl up and crinkle up and misbehave. So what we're going to do, and this bit always takes a bit longer than I ever expect it to, is we're just going to spend some time just working around your edges to make sure they're truly stuck down. If you have any little ridges, so especially those that have gone for the solid shape, it will want to peel up a little bit. It'll get kind of little ridges in it, and it will be a little bit more fiddly. But you're just going to work your way around, just gently squishing down those edges. So I don't know if I can show it you actually on here. Let's see if I can get the angle right. I've got a ridge coming in across here, which means there's a teeny tiny little pocket underneath there. So I'm just going to spend some time making sure that's really squashed down. The reason why we do this is acting as our masking out tool. So this is stopping the reactive white going all over the blue. So basically any white paper that you see now will be blue at the end, and everything else is going to be white. So we're going to flip the image that you're seeing now. And so you just need to make sure that this is well and truly stuck down. If it's all drying too quick and it's puckered up and it's not quite doing what you wanted, just with a slightly damp paintbrush, you can just dab around the edge and then squish the bit that's puckering still. So just spend a bit of time making sure that's well and truly stuck down there. Can you see that bit there? Look, you've got a little bridge there. Can you see?
Oh, yeah.
That's half on the hair and half on the other.
That would be fine, yeah. So any little hairs, don't worry about it. What I found, we've got spotlights in here, and it's not necessarily the best light, but I do find that if I lift it up and I angle it and I'm looking almost across the plane, you can then see those raised bits. So if you're spotting any of those, a little bit of water on your finger as well, that works brilliantly. Just squish them back down again and just make sure they're well and truly stuck. Yeah, and a bit more there. I know, there's so many. To make sure, because I find it's really disappointing when we peel these off and it's bled underneath. We're just going to get rid of any excess water out of your paintbrush, and we're just going to dip into that blue, and I just want you to do one coat around the edge of your star. So just to seal it in, we're basically making or your heart, sorry, those of you that have done hearts. We're just making a paper sandwich. What did you say?
I taught you this.
Did you?
So when you do masking tape, when you paint, so you don't want it to bleed in.
And then, because mine's got the cutout, I'm just going to go around the inside edge as well. What I'm trying not to do is covering the paper completely. However, those of you that have got the solid shapes, it's better not to cover the middle bit of the paper, because you'll be able to find it nice and easy to peel off. I'll end up covering mine completely because of how we do the next layers, but that'll be fine. So it's completely covered, it's completely stuck. And when you've got to that phase, we're just going to flip the bowls on their heads, turn them upside down. Perfect. You're warm now.
I'm warm now.
Good.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brilliant. So flip it on its head. I'm just going to make sure everyone else has done the same before we go on to the next bit.
We are flipped on our head.
Good job. Well done. Sorry, everyone got muted. So you can unmute yourself at the bottom of your picture.
I'm flipped.
Well done, Fran. Brilliant. Vicky's flipped. Good job. Amy's flipping. There we are.
Flip, flip.
Flip, flip, flip. So we're now going to do the same thing. So all I want you to do now is do 3 coats of the same colour on the back of the bowl.
Do we need to put water on?
You don't need to add water to this one because you've already opened this pot, but when you open your third and final pot, you'll need to add your water. Now, when I fire these, there are going to be stilts. Are we on this upper one? Is this the best one? There are little stilt marks here. So there's this tiny little mark here, and here, and here. And it's so that this doesn't stick in the kiln. So if ever you look at mugs and things that you've got at home, they'll have what they call a foot, which is this rim coming around here. And they'll often be kind of more scratchy. They tend not to have a nice shiny glaze on it. And it stops them from sticking in the kiln. But when this, it's personal choice of mine really, but when this bowl is done like this, I just think it looks beautiful without this being a white rim that then adds in. So I'm not going to foot these, I'm not going to wipe that off. I'm just standing them up on these little metal stilts. So they won't stick to the kiln, but it means that you get this beautiful coverage over the bottom of your bowl. So when you're painting, I'd like you to paint all of it, including the foot, the whole thing 3 times. Now do go down to the edge as far as you can whilst it's on the table. But when I said earlier, we're going to treat this top edge as an edge on its own. We will deal with that when we turn them back round. So yeah, you're just going to do 3 coats all the way around, letting it dry in between times. And don't be too sparse on your glaze again. You've got just under 2 pots, so go for it. Make sure this is really, really covered.
Is it best to do it round here for us to turn it round?
I tend to work round it. So I just got asked if it was best to do the edge first and then you can turn it round. I tend to lean over, so we'll be doing a bit of Liz action and we'll be standing up or leaning over and just working our way around. And this will go on the table. It does make a mess, but you're just going to want to paint like this. And if you touch the table or whatever you're working on with your brush, you know you've gone down as low as you can with that. So, and then really the bowl kind of stays still. You're just going to paint your way around it. Okie dokie. So I'm still waiting for mine to dry, but just to show those of you that have moved forward already, you will flip your bowl back over. So I'll just show you on this one, and then you'll find that this upper edge, this rim, is missing glaze. So with whatever's left in your little pot, you'll just get your glaze on your paintbrush, and I find just kind of doing the sweep back like that. So onto the edge of the bowl and moving your hand, so keeping your hand inside the bowl as such and bringing back like this, it just puts enough glaze around the edge. You can then spend a bit of time going around like that as well if you need to, but we're just going to get ideally 2 layers on there, but if you can only do 1 because glaze is running low, that'll be absolutely fine because we're going to put 3 coats of white over the top. So you just need enough to make sure that top edge is completely covered. Things will scuff it too. Just be really careful with how you flip them because you don't want to gouge any of the glaze out. So I tend to go flat-handed against the bowl and lift up, and then you'll find that it will move up and off the table, and then just gently turn it over. Yeah, and then you've got to just work on the rim. I was going to say there's normally big patches. I don't know if you can see there, but there's my patch that I just need to make sure is covered. So most of it should be covered. You shouldn't have lots to do on this section, but just make sure. No, you don't have to wet the brush because you've got it, it's already had that water on there. Yes, Mama. Yeah, I'd flip yours. Just be careful not to put your finger in that bit. Did you do that? I can't pick it out. Flat hands, squish together, and then just move it. I can't do it.
I fried.
What? Oh dear. Okay. Thank you. You can do it. You're a big girl.
I was right.
Wipe over it with your paintbrush and it will just smooth it out again. We're actually going to cover this with lots of drips anyway, so it doesn't have to be truly perfect. You just need to make sure that any exposed bisque has got blue glaze on it, or grey it looks today. But you just want to make sure it's got that on there.
I'll leave that to dry now.
Yes. And then you're going to leave it to dry, and then you're going to wash your paintbrush out. So back into your water. Oh, have you not done 2? You've missed all this bit. So once you've covered it, you just want to wash your paintbrush out, and this time you're going to try and take out as much as you can. So give it a good scrub.
No.
I forgot to. Christina, have you done 2 coats on the rim?
Yes.
Are we supposed to have used all?
Yeah. And then just give this brush a really good wash out and then give it a good squeeze, because we want to really clean it this time because we have got reactive white going in over the top.
It's not dry yet.
Don't worry, I was trying to get ahead because I know some of you are ahead of me already, so I was trying to catch up.
Just so you know, I've still not flipped because I'm waiting for my fourth to dry, but I'll catch up.
Yeah, it's absolutely fine, and don't worry because the next bit is pretty straightforward as well, so you'll be fine. So once you've caught up, even if you're busy painting, I'll yeah, we'll keep a bit of an eye. You'll not be left behind.
Okay, thanks.
For the white. So now we just need to wait for that upper rim to dry, because if we start adding white in now, the basically reactive white sits on top of the glaze and then it has a reaction with it when it's fired. But if we mix reactive white with the glaze that's underneath, we're going to find that it dulls down that reaction. So you're not going to get this beautiful breakup that we like to see in these bowls. So what we're going to do is just wait for this to really, really dry, and then we're going to start with our white. I can just show you on here actually, going back to this bowl that didn't work, there is hardly any cell breakup here, and it gets thicker and thicker as it comes to the edge. It's because I just wasn't brave enough with my white. Now, when we say with this bit, paint it on thick, you're going to paint it on thick because we want this to have this beautiful big cell breakup. So like this bit here. So let's go back to this one. So, but we do also have a little bit of kind of change in texture and breakup here. So I went really, really thick all over as one coat, and then I did a second coat, but you'll see that some of it, I went much thicker and it wasn't so thick there, which is why you get this difference. And then right at the end, once we've done all of our drips and worked around, we're going to add a bit more just around your centerpiece so that this, whatever shape you've decided to do, really, really stands out. I think if you hold back too much around here, you're going to get really minimal breakup and it'll end up looking more like this. Now your stars or hearts or whatever shape you've decided to do will stand out more than this one because we know that we've done enough coats on the inside, but this kind of breakup and reaction with the white is going to be really muted if we don't get enough on there. So this is what we're aiming for. Now there is, it's very, very hard to show or to explain it really when we're on here. The blue is a perfect sheen. It's a really lovely high gloss glaze. The white is high gloss, but it has like almost a bubbly, spongy texture to it. So there is a slight feeling. Now there are some glazes, so all the glazes that we use are classed as food safe because they're non-toxic. But it doesn't necessarily mean that they're then food safe, that you could put something like a pasta with a sauce or something with a gravy on it, because some of them have a surface that would allow that to seep in and then all of your bacteria would grow and it's not ideal. This is, even though it breaks up like this, is a completely food safe piece. So when you get your bowls back, these can be used for anything. Now I think they're just beautiful as serving bowls or massive cereal bowls if you're Daddy Bear. But yeah, you can use this for anything and they will be dishwasher safe. You just can't put them in the microwave. But if you had a hot dish that you wanted to serve up in it, this can go in your oven to warm up because it's never going to get hotter than when I fire it in the kiln. So you'll be able to use it properly as a serving dish of whatever. However, with mine, I have it as a fruit bowl because I just love it. And then it means it's out all the time rather than hidden in the cupboard waiting for people to come over so I can serve up meals. But as I say, this does have a slightly different texture to it. So when you get these back, you'll really be able to feel it when you see it. But there is almost like a sponginess to this white. And then you've got this beautiful blue glaze underneath. But all of it finishes in a gorgeous high shine. So that's what makes it food safe when it's all done. Do you want to feel? You see how it's got that different texture? Yes. Yeah, it feels a bit different there. But it's really, really smooth in there. Okay, so hopefully now I've babbled for ages. Your bowls are dry. So we should be good to go now with the first coat of white. Now, those of you that have got lots of little bits, this is where you really need to keep an eye on where your paper is because it all has to come off. So I don't know if you find it easier to keep your bowl still and perhaps mark at the top, maybe like where 12 o'clock would be, with a pair of scissors or something, so you know that from there, that's where all your pieces are. If you're doing that and you're keeping your bowl still, I would recommend you take a photo of it, so then you can do a spot the difference before and after, just in case there's small bits that you're losing and you're leaving behind. We did have a lady on the last workshop that we did that did little stick people, and they looked amazing, but she lost one and she knew exactly where it should be, but it wasn't there when she started digging. So it's always worth just taking a picture. Actually, what happened with hers is the bowl had twisted, and so she was slightly off. But do be aware of where your paper is. And now we can start painting with this. Now, when you paint with the white, it is slightly thicker than the blue that you've done, and you'll notice that there are tiny little black bits in it. You do see those when they're fired, but they kind of just add to it, really. I don't know if I can show you on this one. Let's get my phone to focus. There. So really teeny tiny little black dots are in this white glaze. It's really, really hard to show you. But so you will see those black dots when they're in there. That's part of the product. That's the thing that helps make it all split apart when it's fired. So don't worry about those. There's nothing wrong with your glaze as such. And when you paint with this, the first coat is going to look really, really messy. So it will show all of your brush strokes. You'll wish you hadn't done it. You'll think you've ruined your bowl. You haven't. So you're just going to do the same. So a little bit of water on your brush, straight into your white, fully load it, and then all over the inside of your bowl. Now, I'm doing the same thing. I'm going for lots and lots of glaze on my brush, and I'm going round. Now, I am going to have to go over mine. So if those of you that have got a solid shape in the middle, I wouldn't go over the middle bit, because then you always know where it is. But because I've cut out the middle of mine, I'm actually going to have to go straight across the middle of my star. And then I'm just going to work my way around. Again, don't overwork this, because as soon as you touch the base glaze with this upper glaze, it's rehydrating that base glaze there. So you just want to make sure that you've got your first coat on and then you stop. So looking at mine, there is a big patch here that I definitely want more glaze on, and there's some real wishy-washy bits around here, but we're going to ignore that. Don't keep working it, because if you do, you'll start mixing your nice blue base glaze up in with the white, and it will stop it reacting. So that goes on, and then we're just going to stop, and we're going to wait for paint to dry again. This will take longer to dry too. It's now coat number 4 or 5. So these coats will take a while to dry. You might find that you're speeding ahead, actually, Liz. You might be able to go indoors before we've even finished. But yeah, these will take a little while to dry. You might attract all the bugs as well. But yes, so this will take a bit of time to dry. So once you've got this one on, we're then going to go for a nice thick second layer, and then we're going to move on to doing the drips on the outside. So we're going for 2 solid coats like this, and then we'll come back and add our third coat in the middle at the end. 2 thick coats up, and then we're going to start working on the drips. So just because some of you are trying a bit quicker than mine is, I don't want you to have to just kind of sit there twiddling your thumb. And Liz is soon going to attack the back and everything else. So we'll see. We'll see what other additions we come back with.
Christina?
Yes?
Mine's a bit wishy-washy. I think I had a bit too much water.
That's okay. You might need a second coat. Can you come closer to your camera, please? No, I think that's fine. So mine is really very similar. It's just because our lighting is very different. Can you see how brush strokey mine is? And it's really...
I can't see you.
Oh, on the face on one. Am I doing that one?
Oh, yeah.
There we
that one, yeah.
There we are. See how...
Okay, quite watery.
Yeah, it looks really watery, and it looks like you've sort of ruined the bowl, but I promise you haven't. So this will dry at some point, and then we can go for our second coat, and then we're going to spend a bit of time doing the drips. So the drips, you'll be concentrating on that so much that you'll have forgotten that the inside is busy drying, and then we'll add our third coat. So there's not too many stages left until you've completed a beautiful bowl. I promise it's beautiful, even though at the moment it does not look it. Drips. So we've lost Amy and Fran. I don't know if they fell under the table. Maybe they had too much. Oh no! There they are.
They've gone to download Thing.
Oh, good. Listening to it, I'm hoping. Maybe they're off. I'm over the drips now. So I have got really big banana man hands, so I can hold this bowl up without it kind of being too much of a strain. But if you're going to struggle with that, you just need to find something to prop your bowl up a little bit higher so you can see it. But I tend to put my hand kind of flat on the bottom, and then I can move it around. But if you're doing it this way, you're going to have it in that position for quite a long time. So just have a little think before you get started. Alternatively, just putting it on an upside down bowl or something just to lift it a little bit higher off the table works really well. And then while that's drying on the inside, the outside is completely dry. So you can have your hand on there without causing any problems. I'm just going to have a little look. Pip, which one am I on? Is it the face on one? Can you spotlight the face on one, please?
So you're on the face on one.
Am I? Is that what everyone can see?
Yeah.
Awesome. Lovely. Thank you. So when you're doing your drips, I'm just going to put my bowl back down because I need to open my new paint. Don't worry about that. That'll be all right.
Can I just check something? I'm sorry. I know Vicky and I still had half a pot left. Are we to put the third coat on before the drips?
I would, yeah, because you've still, so you need to now be on your last pot of glaze that we have got. So if you haven't, just get your third coat on the inside of your bowl. And then whilst that's drying, because we're not doing anything on the inside now, we're just going to start with our drips. Now, I'll chat you through how I recommend you do a drip. But because you've got your brush that's like this, so it's kind of got a corner, like a pointy end and a pointy end, opposite ends, I tend to dip into my glaze. So I've got a diagonal corner like that. And then I'm going to have my hand over the middle of the bowl, and I'm going to touch down on the edge, and I'm just going to drag backwards and empty the glaze, empty the glaze out of my paintbrush. Now, you do have to be a bit careful if you've got it in your hands, because if I start tilting the bowl towards me, the drips are going to not run in a straight line. I want them to go down. So you just need to be aware of that. Now, that's enough. That was just one drip there. But if I wanted that one to be longer, I'm just going to add a little bit more to the same track before it's dry. And you'll find that it heads on down and it will elongate that drip. So it's going to work its way down and then off it goes. And it's taking it, if you look sideways, actually, you can see it going there. So it's nice and it's a slightly longer drip. Now I'm just going to move slightly further along. So bearing in mind the top of my bowl still looks like a bit of a mess. I've still got a lot of grey on show and things like that. But I'm going with the corner of my brush again. I'm going to touch it down. So I'll come sideways and see if you can see like that. I'm going to touch it down. I'm just going to wipe its foot and empty that glaze onto the edge, and off it goes. Now, if it's not long enough or it's not dripping down far enough, add some more. But if you're happy with that, just move along a little bit more and go again. Now, you can do this as many times as you want around the edge. So you can either have them really close, really far apart. You can try and make them really uniform. You can do whatever you want to. But I find that my top ends up looking really messy. So I then get some across the tip of my paintbrush, and I'm just going to tap along the top there so that I make that completely solid. I don't know if you can see that there. Let's try and tilt that. So this bit here has got grey on still, but over my drips, I've now added white. And then I'm just going to let those run. So because I tilted it, I showed you what gravity does. It's pulled it and I've got that kind of curve on the side. But however you do it, you just want to keep it upright and work your way around with your drips. So these guys have got a glass setup. So just to show you there, they're on glasses so they can work their way around. If you're doing anything like that, keep the bowl still on it, because if you start twisting your bowl on top of something hard, like a glass, you're going to cut the glaze out from underneath. You can turn the glass, but don't twist the bowl on it, because if you're twisting your bowl on, you're basically the glass will gouge into that glaze that's underneath, and it will kind of cut a ring into the bottom. Does that all make sense? Are you all happy to start doing some drips?
Christina, can you just show me again, because you froze when I haven't actually seen you do the drips, because it all froze for about for a few minutes.
I'm going to go for this bottom corner, so I'm just going to load like that. So I've got my glaze on there. And then I'm going to have my hand over the inside of the bowl. I'm going to touch the edge of the bowl where I want the drip to be. And I'm just going to pull back and empty that glaze off the edge like that. And as soon as I do it, it then starts to run. And then I'll
Got
reload,
it. Thank you.
work my way round and then go again. Now, if you want to, and it's not going far enough, if it's still wet, you can add a little bit more glaze to the top of the same one, and it will join that in a minute, and it will send that one nice and a little bit longer. Now, ideally,
Okay.
time it so they stop before they drop off the bottom. However, some of the ones that I've just fired from last week's course that we did look amazing with the drips that go all the way down. So if you have one that's a bit of a wayward drip and it runs too far, just embrace it and go with it. We also had people that had drips that started going down the inside of their bowl, and again that looks amazing because it adds a kind of another dimension to this white sort of lace effect inside. Some people willingly added drips on the inside too. So whatever happens now, just kind of embrace it and work your way around.
Brilliant.
What I'm doing is just loading my paintbrush, like the flat edge, and I'm just going to touch the top rim with it so that that looks as solid as my drips does. So I'm just going around the edge. So I'm not touching the drips, I'm not feeding any more into those, I'm just putting another layer of white over the top. And it just links those bits up whenever you have a drip that's got a bit of a gap between the two or something like that. It will just finish that bit off. Now, when you have committed, if you are holding yours in your hand and you decide to put this down, now is the time to be really, really careful because you don't want to touch these drips. So you've just got to be really careful about where your fingers are going to go and position this and work it out to get it down onto the table. And ideally, these will stay wet for quite a long time. And so ideally, you're going to put this down and this will be where it stays now. So I won't be able to lift mine up anymore, but I can angle the camera to you. But I'm just going to spend a bit of time. So I don't know if any of you are holding, actually. Let me go back to my main thing. I think you're all on a stand. Oh, there we go. Sabrina's holding. So when you get down to it, Sabrina, I tend to hold the foot underneath with my fingers, get one edge down and almost kind of drop the bowl on itself, just really gently, but you're going to let go like that. And then once it's down, that's where it needs to stay. You can't move it again. That's it. Oh.
I just done a double drip by mistake.
A double drip?
I was going around the top and it dripped a bit next to another drip.
Oh, that's okay. You've just got a close-up drip.
A very fat drip.
A non-socially distancing drip, that one.
Yeah. Looks so good.
Your bowl. You're going to add your third on mine, but some of you, this will be your fourth, but that's fine. Really, really thick over the top. This will make you lose your shape.
Right.
So be really aware if you've got small bits that it's going to be harder now for you to see.
Christine, if one two is on your side, can you go over them again?
Yeah.
Yeah, could I sort of stretch it one
Yeah.
way round?
Yeah, if you want to. Mine went right off the edge. I know, mine did. Mine dripped off and under. Of you that are propped up on a mug or a glass that's smaller, when you start putting pressure on this, you don't want your bowl to topple off. So just be aware when you paint this coat on the inside that you're not tipping off the top.
Bobsy, I promise I'm paying attention. Do I need to go all the way around the outside or just the base?
Just the base. So you know, it's quite.
I've got tons left though.
Yeah, it's a flat bottom bowl, isn't it? So it's flat and then it's going to start coming up. I've basically done one really thick coat around that bottom bit. And that's then going to give you this kind of breakup. So you're going to have really lovely big bits coming in around here and then it'll be slightly finer as it comes up the side. So that's what we're aiming for with this.
So just thick round the shape, yeah? Yeah, just thick round the shape.
Off the edge of it. So if you've got your point, so mine's disappeared now completely. There is my star. There's the points of my star and I painted out to there. So I've gone about that far off each edge of my star. So I've kind of
an inch extra.
Yeah.
I've got loads and loads of paintbrush things.
So I've got this much left. I don't know if that, oh, where are we? That much. Not a lot, but enough. I could probably do another coat with what I've got left in my pot. Yes. Now that's running on the inside, so if you don't want it to, just smooth it out. Yeah. So what you can do, I don't know if Pip's got some pictures perhaps of the ones that have got drops on the inside, but they look amazing. And the drips kind of run down the inside too. I don't have it on my display, but it works beautifully. It doesn't detract from the inside. So if you have got any of these left, if you have a little look at the edge of this one, are really intense compared to what's on the inside. So if you imagine that really, really lovely thick glaze drips in over the top of this, you're just going to get really big kind of thick breakup kind of coming down in little lines. So if you want to now, you can spend a bit of time just adding your drip kind of coming on the inside as well. You don't have to, but those that did it on the previous courses, I was pleasantly surprised. Oh, there we go. Pip's showing one. So let me show you guys. See how the drips do work on the inside because they go in that little bit thicker. So if you wanted to add drips on the inside, they do work really, really well. If you don't want them, just make sure you've smoothed it off, any accidental ones that have gone in there.
Oh no. I've lost my...
Let this go completely bone dry because it's going to be almost impossible to pick your paper off of. However, when it starts to dry, if you're really worried about where it might be positioned or where it's gone, it does take a little bit longer to dry on top of the paper cutout. So whilst it's busy drying and it's almost gone on mine, there is a little edge that I can see that I'm actually going to get hold of and peel off. Now, in an ideal world, it will just come off in one whole, whole piece, but sometimes it'll break up. This is really wet now, this paper. Now, you just got to be careful because your automatic thing would be to hold the bowl or to touch it. You only need to touch the paper. So I have got little fingernails that I can get under. Alternatively, use part of your scissors. But just be careful. All you want to touch is the paper. You don't want to push any deeper because if you start gouging out glaze, we're going to go right down to bisque here. So I'm just going to, I don't know if you can see it, my hands, I need to not have them. It's just a matter of getting onto that paper enough that you can see where it is, and then you just want to slightly lift it up like that. And then once you've got it, peel it back and off.
Ah, bless you.
And there we go. So the paper's off, that can go in the bin. And now that is it. So once you have done all of your painting and you've done everything you want to do, you need to peel your paper off. And then I recommend your bowls stay exactly where they are, if you can bear that. If you are going to move them, just be really aware of where your drips are. You can probably hold underneath your bowl a bit like a cradle if you can get all of your fingers in between drips and lift and move just so you can tidy up your space. But if not, leave your bowls out, ideally overnight. Let them dry completely because those drips, especially the bottom end of the drips, are really, really wet and they'll stay wet for a long time. And then what you'll do is when they're bone dry, just wrap them back up in their tissue paper and pop your name on the bag. And then in it goes and we'll sort out getting them back to Rachel and then I'll get them up to me and fire them and then we'll distribute them again. So yeah, that is it. That's everything. That's your bowl complete. We just need to fire them now and make them beautiful. More beautiful, not just beautiful.